The depths is a realm of many layers. You've seen the first layer, a dark ocean filled with wreckage, ruins, and lost souls. You've seen the second layer, a sunken city concealed within a frigid wasteland crawling with eldritch horrors. Today, I'll show you the third layer, or at least predict what it'll look like when we eventually see it in-game. We may not know much about the third layer in terms of information, but I'd made videos with less, and I reckon that the theorists before me just weren't looking hard enough. We won't just be wielding hints left for us in-game though. Today, I'll be revisiting my all-time favorite Deepwoken theory and freeing it from my attic, like my red-headed stepchild Jeremy that I wish would just go away. Ready to learn all about the fire-scorched Layer 3 before it's even close to release? You'd better be, and there's no better way to show your support than subscribing to the channel. It's day 3 of daily upload month, and you guys have been devouring the videos lately. If you'd like to claim your I was an Irma's Metal viewer while he was still niche ticket, you'd best do it now. Thanks a million, let's begin and predict just what we'll encounter in Deepwoken's third layer. In case you're somehow unfamiliar with how the depths layers work, it's pretty simple. While the depths is completely irregular and defies reality, scholars in the world of Deepwoken tried anyways, and thus they came up with layers. If we think of the depths as a standard dungeon, each layer is essentially a new floor. Each floor is different from the next, and you progress by clearing one floor and heading downwards to the next. The depths layers work the same, or at least they should in concept. In reality, the depths layers aren't ordered whatsoever, they bleed into one another, and you can skip entire layers, traversing from the first to the third, for example. Regardless, each layer is pretty clearly defined for you. The first layer is marked by the remains of Lost Celtor, and the second layer is, well, if you can't tell you're in layer 2 by the time you're in there, you're gonna die anyways. This brings us to the third layer, the subject of today's video. What would layer 3 actually look like? Who would we encounter? Who's waiting to attack us? In case you're not aware, each layer of the depths is the home of a drowned god, all-powerful beings that, thankfully, are currently in deep slumber. If they were to wake, well, we'd all die instantly, so let's hope it's not happening anytime soon. Back to the topic at hand though, layer 3 naturally has its very own drowned god. Its name? Coral Fiend. We know very little about Coral Fiend, besides the fact that it presides over the third layer. I'm pretty sure the community generally portrays Coral Fiend as some sort of fiery serpent, but I don't actually know where this came from, considering I haven't been able to find official confirmation as to what Coral Fiend actually looks like. I don't think he will resemble a serpent, but the fiery part might not be too far off. Why? Well, if we want to solve the third layer, we'll have to turn to the one and only Crimson Megalodon. Yes, the Crimson Megalodon. I'm sure this feels quite random, but the Crimson Megalodon actually has links to the third layer. Yes, a Megalodon has links to layer 3. You wouldn't be able to figure this out without some luck though, as the Crimson Megalodon's origins are only told through the description of the First Light, a greatsword it drops on rare occasion. The First Light's description reads as follows. The blade of Ven Kaelhand, a disciple of Pleeksty who immersed himself much too deeply in the study of beasts, altered by Coral Fiend's influence, met their fate in the jaws of a unique specimen of Megalodon said to have been exposed to the vents of Coral Fiend. This unique specimen of Megalodon is indeed the Crimson Megalodon, as the Crimson variant is the only Megalodon that can drop the First Light in the first place. Thus, we know that the original wielder of the First Light dialed in conflict with one of these Crimson Megalodons, but we also now know that these Crimson Sharkos are, well, crimson because they've come into contact with the vents of Coral Fiend. We don't actually know what those vents are, but they're clearly related to, you guessed it, the third layer. It's possible that these vents are the third layer leaking out into Lumen, or that these vents will be found within layer 3 itself. This is why I mentioned Coral Fiend being fiery earlier. Coral Fiend emits flames that can alter monsters and humans alike. That's why the Crimson Megalodon can wield Flame Charm. Alter monsters and humans? Slow down, you haven't mentioned any humans changed by Coral Fiend yet, just Megalodons, I hear you saying. Well, buckle in, because the real kicker in the First Light's description is the mention of the one and only Amorus Pleeksty. In case you're not familiar with Pleeksty, he's one of 3 confirmed Deepwoken, regular humans who ate part of a drowned god and ascended to immortality, basically becoming all-powerful. Pleeksty was responsible for creating the art of Flame Charm, which is something he developed after ascending to a Deepwoken, but he hasn't been seen publicly in a long time, even leaving his disciple Oscar to rot away in the second layer. Now, I'll give you 3 seconds to guess what drowned god Pleeksty ate part of. That's right, he ate a piece of the one and only Coral Fiend. This ties Pleeksty to the third layer, and it's my belief that we'll find Pleeksty himself, or at least see his influence in the third layer itself. This is where that theory of mine that I mentioned earlier comes in. In what I consider my favorite video on this channel, Who is Amorus Pleeksty, I propose that Pleeksty and Coral Fiend would both be found within the third layer, under circumstances eerily similar to Greek mythology. Specifically, I theorize that Coral Fiend and Pleeksty will mirror the tale of Prometheus. Yeah, I'm gonna assume you don't know what that means, so I'll just summarize it for you. In ancient Greek myth, Prometheus shared the gift of fire to mankind and was punished by Zeus in result. Prometheus was bound to a rock and had his immortal liver eaten by an eagle every day. The liver would regenerate, resulting in his eternal torture. However, Prometheus was eventually freed by Heracles, who killed the eagle and unchained Prometheus from his eternal hell. In some variations of the tale, Heracles recruits another immortal, Chiron, to be tortured in Prometheus' stead. My video's ultimate conclusion is that the story of Prometheus will be mirrored in the third layer. Pleeksty is Prometheus, the immortal who gave fire to mankind. Coral Fiend is Zeus, Pleeksty's tormentor. We are Heracles, the hero who must free Pleeksty, or as I see him, Prometheus. It's even possible that the eagle that tortured Prometheus could be represented in-game via Coral Fiend's equivalent of the Scion of Etheron. Now, is this theory delightfully slick? Yes, and that's why it's remained my personal favorite to this day, but let's be real, the developers did not think of this. Perhaps this theory of mine may inspire something in future, but to say that this is a prediction would be a bit facetious. However, there are some aspects of this theory that I feel could reasonably show up in-game. For starters, the appearance of Pleeksty within the third layer. Realistically, if we're going to see any already established characters in Layer 3, it's going to be Pleeksty. I also feel as if it's about time that we meet one of the fabled Deepwoken, rather than having them be solely established via word of mouth. However, if Pleeksty is going to appear, he'd have to be well done and treated with care. Pleeksty is not a character that the developers can simply afford to slap into Layer 3 and call it a day. He's a linchpin of the lore, and if he's butchered, it will be an absolute travesty. I also think that it's near guaranteed that Layer 3 will have at least one boss battle. While this may seem obvious, the developers have stated that they want Layer 3 to be far more open-ended and explorable, compared to the dungeon crawler attitude that they took with Layer 2. It's technically possible that the third layer will mirror the first and only have mini-bosses, but I feel like this would detract from the hype. Thus, I feel as if we'll receive at least one boss monster, and who would this be if not for the Scion of Coral Fiend? For the record, I don't actually think he'll be called the Scion of Coral Fiend, or that the boss will look similar or be the same thing, but look, it wouldn't surprise me if the layer's final fight puts us up against the proxy or vessel of yet another drowned god. However, if we're not fighting part of Coral Fiend, who would we battle against? There's a few options here. For all I know, we could end up fighting some completely original creature or one of Pleeksty's disciples, God forbid. However, I do think it's worth noting is that the possibility of us battling against Pleeksty himself is up there. While this does seem a bit far-fetched, it's a very obvious layup for the developers, which means it's theoretically a possibility, whether Pleeksty's possessed or he simply lost his mind in the third layer after years of staring at alien drywall. You would lose your shit too. In terms of the layer's actual layout and design, bear with me here, I'm going to assume that it will resemble something like Minecraft's dimension, the Nether. There's no way you don't know what the Nether is, so you get the idea. While there will most definitely be a lot of scorched earth and fire everywhere and probably volcanoes and stuff, I'm expecting a lot of diverse biomes like alien pastures or large salt biomes, you get the idea. It's a possibility that the third layer could resemble the second in terms of aesthetic, but I highly doubt that'll be the case, considering the developers clearly want the third layer to make a complete departure from everything that we saw in Layer 2. This is about the most I can reasonably speculate upon, considering how little we actually know about the third layer. I don't even know if the third layer is currently being worked on, but I digress, I've done what I can. What do you think the third layer will look like? Do you think Pleeksty will make an appearance? Who or what do you think will battle in the depths of Layer 3? Let me know in the comments, and thank you for watching. I'll see you next video. Much love, stay well, and be well. Someone out there loves you.